Welcome on this Friday morning. Later on after the 10 o'clock news, we'll have open phones for you. At 11 o'clock, we'll learn about Timbers Bar and Grill in Saginaw. But for this hour, or the most part of this hour, I'm going to have to let them go a little bit early, but I have shanghaied a guest this morning, literally. We were at a meeting this morning together, and I said, gee, why don't you come over to the station this morning? And sitting before me, there he is, Representative Matthew Bierlein. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. Glad I could join you in studio today.
Good to see you. Oh, my goodness gracious. So I have to tell you a funny story because it woke me up to maybe not paying attention as much as I should. The recent special election primary for the 35th Congressional State Senate District, State Senate District. I went down to vote only to remember while I'm standing there and the clerk looked at me with a funny expression, I'm in the 26th. I'm not in the 35th. And as a matter of fact, you would be in the 26th. And
I do live in the 26th.
Are running to fill that seat, aren't you, in the Senate?
Yeah, I announced that just after the first of the year that I'm going to seek that election this current cycle. The 26th has a lot of similarities to the 97th.
Well, cheers a lot of land, yeah.
Yeah, represents a lot of where I currently reside, picks up some big areas in Lapeer and then over into some more of Genesee, and then the western side of Saginaw County. So my current district wraps around the north of the city. The Senate district wraps around the south of the city.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. That's a whole nother ball game. And you're a rural kind of guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I've always lived in Vassar, born and raised. Kind of grew up just outside of town, but had grandparents that lived out in the country. We built a house there 10 years ago. We love it. We have chickens and goats, a lot of woods, a big pond. Love being out where minimal neighbors. Spend a lot of time in the public. And so when we do go home, it's nice to kind of decompress and relax in that quiet.
That's an interesting comment because for those of us who spend our life in the public, so to speak, people don't realize how much we treasure that downtime. Home, close the door, separate from the world.
It really is. We spend a lot of time in our garden. Spend a lot of time with the landscaping. Pulling weeds might not sound like fun, but there's something about just sitting there in the quiet, listening to the birds, and feeling the wind.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the state a little bit. The governor is going to propose her budget. There's been releases on all the things in it. I want to start with the educational piece, the reading particularly. The state, we spend a lot of money on education, yet we rank near the bottom of the list. What's wrong with the system?
We've spent over $1 billion the last 10 years directed just towards reading. And we've dropped.
Yeah, we dropped.
From, I think we were 36th, and now we're 44th. It's not getting better. We had a third grade reading law that said if you couldn't read, you didn't go to fourth grade. That was repealed last term, the first year that it was actually supposed to be implemented. So we never had an opportunity to actually see that in practice. We were able to pass last term a change in the way that we want teachers to teach reading. It's more of I would say it's a return to phonics. The state migrated to sight words. We were teaching kids to read by sight words. We're going to make them memorize these words so that when they see it on paper, they just automatically know what it is. Well, that's great for the 100 words you'll learn as a kindergartner, as a 5-year-old, but we didn't teach them how to sound those words out for when they got to the new words that they didn't know. And I think I saw it with my kids, and we really emphasized at home and in reading at home the phonics and the way that we learned how to read. We're going back to that as a state. That's exactly what Mississippi did. to, they call it the Mississippi Miracle, this huge jump from,
they-
last to second, or I think
Yeah,
where they're
amazing.
at. And that's, so we have legislation that all schools should be migrating to that method. A lot of it has to do with the way that they teach for dyslexia, and the things that they're using there are the same ways that we learned how to read as kids.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I didn't learn that in New York City schools where I went to school. Was you read. I mean, you learned sight words. You didn't have phonics. Phonics came along in New York, and what happened was spelling went to heck in a handbag.
I can see that.
There's a downside to it, but for the most part, it is a better way to teach reading. But it just seems to me we spend a lot of money on education and we don't get our dollar's worth.
It's tough. We've seen education spending. The spending has gone up.
And continues.
Student populations have not. Inflation has gone up along with it. It's a tough conversation, because if you're going to talk about investing money, where should you invest it? Kids is a pretty good place to put your money, but we need return for that investment. And so I think that's where a lot of conversations are going to happen around this budget, is what return are we getting?
How do I put it? Do we spend too much time teaching to the test rather than the subject? Because the state requires so many tests, this, that, the other thing. It seems to me that the schools, to maintain their position, whatever that is, got to teach to the test so they have numbers that satisfy them.
Yeah, that's certainly a conversation that I think we've been having. It gets asked a lot. Are we teaching to the test, or are we teaching content? Michigan has tests that kids take that other states don't, as part of that model. My kids took tests yesterday at school. They had the NWEA test, which is a national test that every state utilizes. It's how we actually compare ourselves to other states. But then Michigan has their own tests on top of that. I don't want to say that I wish I was somebody who developed a test and was able to convince the Board of Ed to make that recommendation every year. But somebody makes a lot of money off those tests. And if we're already going to take this national test, I'm not sure why we have to have both models. Let's just teach.
Yeah. Well, when I went to school again a long time ago, we had what was called the Iowa Battery and IQ tests. That was it, though. I mean, in the city of New York, there weren't special New York City tests, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, when I was a kid, I think we had MEEP. Now I think
I know you had MEEP here.
Yeah, we had that when I was a kid. I think it's M-STEP now, but I don't think we had that nationalized test when I was a kid either. I don't remember that, but it was a while ago.
You're a kid.
Well, it seems like it was a while ago.
Yeah, I know. Life has that funny way of doing that to you, doesn't it? All right, we're going to take a break, come back. We're talking to Matthew Bierlein, and we will be back with more on state politics and state doings after this.
The time has come to ask attorney.
Back with you in studio with me, 97th State Representative. He is Matthew Bierlein. We're talking about the governor proposing her budget, and one of the things in the budget that we just talked about was she's going to be proposing some kind of property tax relief for senior citizens.
Yes.
How's that going to fly with your side of the aisle?
So I think we talked about this the other day as a group, and I liken property taxes to the 2018 campaign cycle, where every door you knocked on, the issue was car insurance. I think property taxes has reached that point with a lot of people. The housing market has been very robust in prices, and so with that, whenever there's a sale, it raises the taxable value, or the taxable value catches up to the SEV, and so people are paying a lot in property taxes right now. So I believe that there will be property tax relief in our proposal, probably in the Senate proposal, and then the governor's proposal, which was a property tax exemption for seniors to the tune of it's about $90 million statewide that it would cut from the budget, because I believe it's a tax credit is what she's proposing. So locals are left whole, and the money would go out to them directly as a tax credit.
But that's just for seniors.
That's just for seniors. So I think what you're going to see out of House Republicans is the proposal will be it will include everyone. There won't be something that just says if you're in this poverty level or if you're a senior. New families need property tax help. People who maybe just they moved for a job and they might have moved into a smaller house and they're paying twice as much property tax as they were 10 years ago. They need help. And so I think whatever you see out of House Republicans is going to include everyone.
It just seems to me in this day and age, when we have a housing shortage, the cost of building new housing almost eliminates people from starter homes. Used to be you could build a 1,500 square foot house, and maybe sell it for $150,000, and it was considered a starter.
Mm-hmm.
That same house today is $450,000 because it's $300 a square to build it. How are we going to get over that?
So if you talk with the Home Builders Association, they will tell you anywhere from, depending on the municipality you live in, anywhere from $90,000 to $120,000 in regulations to build a house.
Yeah.
Now, when we say that, some of it's zoning. Some of it's that local aspect of the things you have to do to build there, whether it's paying fees and permitting and things like that. Some of it's building code has changed to make you do things to the house. It has to have a certain R value in the attic and a certain R value on the walls that have just added costs to building a house. Now, are those good things? Sure they are. You're going to spend less in energy, and the house is going to be warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer, and all of that plays into it. But it adds a lot of cost to the house. So if you're talking about starting at $100,000, and then that's not even the building cost, it's hard. The more you can spread that out, if you can spread that out over a 3,000 square foot house, it's a lot better than a 1,000 square foot house.
Yeah, and we were also, the victims, like everybody else, of what happened in Florida and Georgia, Carolinas, because every time there's a major weather event, their lumber prices go through the roof because they need that lumber, and that impacts everybody. Yeah,
that's a supply and demand issue. And it raises the costs. I mean, there's much more demand than there is supply, so it brings the cost up to try and slow things down until they can match back up. And we certainly we see the effects of that. And then just zoning in general has made it difficult to build starter homes. We zone in a way that protects property value instead of necessarily making houses available. And so if you have to have this many feet of road frontage and the house has to be minimally this size so that it doesn't negatively affect the value of my neighbor's house, it makes it very difficult to build smaller starter homes.
Yeah. I think probably some of the answer is going to be in multiple family dwellings, either apartments, condos, what have you.
Yeah, and I think we've seen some cities try to tackle that with allowing for accessory buildings. You can build a mother-in-law suite that doesn't necessarily have to be attached to your house as an addition. And for some folks, it's not a mother-in-law suite; it's a rental for a college kid or somebody just getting on their feet. I think from a state level, I don't think we should make that decision and say, City of Saginaw or Tittabawassee Township or City of Vassar, you have to allow this. What we could say is we're going to incentivize you to look at some of these things through, maybe we're going to give you a bump in your revenue sharing if you look at your zoning and what ways you can change it. I don't personally think the state should make those decisions, though.
But the state is involved in permitting for everything. How do we get the state out of the way? That's not to say they shouldn't have some oversight. I understand that. But you talk to somebody, for example, that applies for a liquor license, it takes forever because they submit everything they're asked for, and after the bureaucracy gets all of it, which is what they asked for, then they'll find out something else they want to ask for again, and then they'll do it again and again, and it takes forever. That's just one example, though.
Yeah, so we've been talking about this a lot. I know you've had Rep. Schutte on, and he is leading this kind of red tape reduction effort. Some of these permits, they need a checkbox. If you've checked the boxes, they need to be shall issue instead of that they will issue at some point.
Well, that's the way the concealed pistol license went. Because it used to be, you went before a board and they could deny you for any reason they wanted. Now it's a shall issue.
It's a shall issue. In our business sense of things, it needs to move to that. We need timelines, very strict timelines for the departments, and they have to show just cause to not issue instead of the other way around where, well, we know we asked you for papers A, B, and C, but we decided after you provided A, B, and C that we'd like D, E, and F.
Yeah.
That's not, if you needed D, E, and F, you don't get to wait 30 days and then tell me, oh, by the way, we'd like D. And then they get D, and they wait 30 days, and then, and we need E. If you need them all, you ask for them, and the agencies need to go to a shall issue on this stuff.
Any support for it? I mean, do you sense that something that might work its way through the legislature?
I think you'd certainly see that support in the House. The governor had mentioned in her last State of the State that she wants to tackle some of these licensing issues.
But hasn't.
I'd say we're working on some of them. We're looking at especially a lot of worker licenses. Probably not as much on things like liquor control or permitting for businesses, but on actual worker licenses, I think we're making some good headway. There's a lot of introductions for the state to enter into the compacts that exist in other states, where if you have an electrician's license in Michigan and you have you don't need to go buy one in Ohio to work in Ohio, or if you have one in Ohio, you don't need to buy one in Michigan to come work here.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of that with medical, the medical industry. Those folks do tend to travel quite a bit more. And so entering into those compacts, I think they've almost all been introduced and made it out of committee for OTs, PTs, nurses, physicians. So those are all things that we're working on. And I feel really good about where that's headed. And I think the governor's going to sign some of those things. So,
all right.
So it's a step in the right direction.
Take a break, come back with one more segment for Matthew. He's got an appointment at 10 o'clock, so we're going to have to let him out of here a little early. Matthew Bierlein, 97th State Representative. Hi, we're back with you, and in studio with me, 97th State Representative, he is Matthew Bierlein, also a candidate for the 26th Senate District, coming up primary in August. Talking about the governor's proposed budget. You haven't seen the whole budget yet, have you? No.
I've started to see the numbers. I've started going through it. I mean, it's a lot. It's $86 billion is what's being proposed. Last year's budget was $81 billion and some change.
Did we really gain that much?
No, actually, we're projecting to have less money than we thought we would. So we have an estimating revenue conference. We call it the CREC. So we get our CREC report, and we had a CREC report in January. Says we're $805 million less than what we thought we would have. And then we get the governor's recommendation, and it's the executive recommendation. So we get our CREC, and then we get the exec rec, and then the House will start working on the House has already started working on their budget. So the appropriations committees are working on their budgets in the House and the Senate, and then in May we'll get another estimating conference report. And from that point, that's when we kind of really know how much money there is to spend, and then we'll start that negotiation process.
Any chance the budget will get done in the spring, by June? I mean, we had that under Snyder. He managed to do it a couple of times.
He did. I wish I could give you a good answer. I think, we were hopeful that after negotiating the last budget, it would really, we knew it was going to be hard and it was going to take a lot of work together, and it was going to end with us coming together and finding a way to work with each other. And I don't think that it got any better. I don't think the relationships really moved forward.
It's usually
with
one or
leadership.
two sticking points, too, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the budget is boilerplate, if you will.
A lot of it is. Even in this in the budget proposal we have. So there was a lot of talk in the last budget about maybe you heard it, ghost employees. So the state gets approved for a certain number of employees in every department, but then they never fill those positions, but they receive the money for it. And then that money kind of goes into a slush fund. And so we worked really hard to eliminate a bunch of these ghost employees. So there's a recognition that they still have some on the books. We have about 49,000 state employees right now. The governor's asking for 1,000 more than she asked for last year.
For what?
So they're asking for 55,000 employees. It's 6,000 more than we currently have. Now, maybe there are positions that need to be filled. That happens.
Tell me about the state police. I'll say okay.
Absolutely. So at the trooper level, we need to fill positions. I'm not as convinced that we need to fill positions at the administrative level.
Well, that's a whole other story. I was not amused the last budget because your cohorts on the Republican side of the aisle had proposed cutting the state police budget because they didn't like Grady. Well, I understand that, but man, when you're talking about law enforcement, cut is not a word I want to hear.
And so the overall budget for the state police, I believe, was less, but it was line itemed in certain spots. So it was less at that administrative, and then there's civilian jobs within the state police. The trooper line item, we didn't cut anything from there. We're still trying to fill those positions.
They had big increases in their
they
income.
did. Yes, they did.
Trying to attract. You got to attract them.
It's hard when the general, and I don't even think the general public feels this way, but we often don't hear from the general public. We hear from the loudest members on either side of an argument, and so when the noise is that we don't support law enforcement and we don't trust law enforcement, it's really hard to bring people into those careers. When I see my small towns having, the chief of police goes and has lunch with a kid at the school once a week just to try and build those relationships. Those things are really important because it's building it. We're trying to repair that trust and build that trust.
And almost all the departments now are paying for the academy.
Absolutely, you have to. I don't think anybody's not at this point.
Well, no,
they're sponsoring people.
Yeah, because what happened was there were a few big departments that were paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
They'd send all these young folks through the academy, and then other departments would cherry pick them.
Yeah, so we did put something. We passed a law, I think in my first term, that it was directed towards Detroit more so than anywhere else because they had their own academy.
Right.
So they'd spend a lot of money to put their guys through the academy, and then Troy would hire them.
Yeah.
Or somebody picks them off, and we see it. I'm from Tuscola County. We can't pay quite as much as they can in Bay and Saginaw. We've seen that at our county level in every position. We get somebody trained really well in the treasurer's office, and they take them to Bay County and pay them $4 or $5 more an hour.
Saginaw City Department had that problem, and they were the only ones at the academy for a while. Now everybody's at the academy, Well, I know you have to go. He has a 10 o'clock appointment. He's making the rounds. But I literally shanghaied him this morning. I said, Matthew, come on over. I appreciate it, my friend.
Well, it's worked out. I always like having a chat with you, and this was nice. It was nice to be in studio. Well, I'm going to try to make this work more often.
Yeah, I was going to say that the next time you're scheduled, just come up. I mean, I'd rather sit here and look at you than...
Typically, we're on the phone as I'm heading to the next thing.
I know that.
I know you get that feedback, and so we'll work on it.
Well, especially if you can do a Monday or a Friday, because you're usually not in Lansing, right?
Correct. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are session and committee days.
Right.
So Mondays and Fridays, a little more flexibility.
Talk to Jonathan.
We'll do that.
Matthew, have a great day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Matthew Bierlein, he is the 97th State Representative, 97th District State Representative, also running for Senate in the 26th Senatorial District. And we will be back after these notes.
A 401k can be an important...
About tires. Yep, tires. Winter tires. Because there is a difference between winter tires and all-season tires. And if you stop by Quick Lane Freeland, where they sell all their tires for just $5 over cost, they will be glad to explain to you the difference and be glad to check your tires to see if they're good for winter driving. Now, luckily, we're going to get a little bit of a warm spell here, but this is Michigan, folks. Winter's not over yet. So when you want to be safe, you want to be safe on good tires for the driving conditions. I've asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to tell us the difference between the winter tire and your all-season tire.
Hello, Art. Yes, winter tires are made with a pliable rubber compound that includes silica to stay flexible and maintain grip in freezing temperatures, unlike harder all-season tires which stiffen and lose traction in the cold. This flexible compound allows the tire to better conform to the road surface, providing superior grip and traction on snow and ice to keep you safe.
Thanks, John. Quick Lane Freeland. It's where you go for all your routine maintenance, everything from oil changes to brakes and tires. And again, they sell all their tires at just $5 over cost, and they can guide you into the proper tire for your vehicle. Stop by today. Also, while you're there, check out the new Ford lineup from McDonald Ford. Quick Lane Freeland on the McDonald Ford property, and these are two names, McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland, that stand ready to help you with all your automotive needs in 2026.
Rocket Grab.
All right, we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show. A few minutes left in this hour. Next hour, we'll have open phones for you for the entire hour. I mentioned during the commercial here for our friends at Quick Lane Freeland that, we're warming up a little bit. And I pulled an article down that talks about La Nina and El Nino. Those are the two defined ocean temperature protocols that happen in the Pacific, in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. And La Nina is fading quickly. Processes are it's in the process of changing places. And La Nina, they say, is likely to give way to El Nino. And, they do different things to our weather. La Nina, typically cooler than average ocean water in the region, and one of the drivers in the United States during late fall, winter, and early spring. And it's the opposite of El Nino, which occurs with warmer water. And there's something called ENSO neutral where it's between the two of them, which I know nothing about. La Nina has had impact on our weather, but the polar vortex probably for us has been the more dominant factor. Well, now the polar vortex is retreated, which is why we're warming up, and La Nina is also retreating, so we should theoretically be a little warmer, which looks like what's going to happen. But El Nino comes along, and the forecasters are saying there's a 50 to 60% chance of El Nino July through September of this year. And they're still working on the models to see what it's going to do for us. They have not issued any particular warnings or anything of that nature yet, but they have taken a look at what El Nino may mean for the Atlantic and Pacific hurricane seasons. Too early to answer is what they say. That from a public affairs specialist and meteorologist with NOAA, the National Weather Service. And El Nino traditionally tends to limit tropical storm and hurricane activity in the western Atlantic and Caribbean. Does increase activity in the east and central Pacific, though. So they may be subject to more storms than we will. Time will tell. And of course, the big question is, and who knows, what's